No.
This is an oral history of Emily Tobolowsky taken by May Siebel on Tuesday, March 27, 2018. Hello.
Hello,
Thank you
May.
for welcoming us into your home.
My pleasure.
We are just delighted that you've agreed to do this. Tell us what you know about the early history of your family.
Well, that is a challenge. On my side of the family, which means a little different than, say, Peggy, Easter, that group, because it's a different branch, if you will. Somewhere it meets with ours. But my father was born, Edwin, was born and raised here in Dallas. His mother, Etta Gertrude, was born and raised here in Dallas. She had a brother who was born, she was the elder as I understand it. She had a brother who was born in Wichita Falls. Now, my grandfather, my father's father, was born in Sweden. And the most interesting piece of it all is that he was a Tobolowsky and she was a Tobolowsky, but they are not anything approaching first cousins. I do not know, though someone must have the big family tree, I do not know how that all came together. But there were a number of Jews born in Sweden, I think, leaving, oh goodness, leaving Russia. And so Rube was born in Sweden, and beyond that, I do not know where Etta Gertrude's parents, her mother got here, so far as I know, fairly young in her lifetime. I don't recall anything about her father. I never knew Etta. I'm named after her because I'm Emily Gale. And I never knew her, and in fact, my mother never knew her. Okay, don't cry. Because she died at a fairly young age. So that is what I know about that part of the family. At some point, there are crossovers with the other part of the family, but I don't know where that point is. There are people in the family who are doing lots of genealogy work. I just don't happen to be one of them.
Who was the first person to come to Dallas and what brought them to Dallas?
Well, to my knowledge, my grandmother, Etta, was born here, and I think she was brought here by, or arrived here because her parents were here. Now, how Rube got here, who was her husband, my father's father, how he got here, I do not know. What brought him here, I'm going to assume, was family. But that's where my knowledge of how this family intertwines and intersects stops. I think Myra Tobolowsky Prescott has a map of the family that far exceeds anything I know. Then my dad's dad, Reuben, was in the hat business in Dallas, and my father became a lawyer. And okay, Howie, and that's as far back as I know.
Okay, so the hat business, was it a wholesale or retail hat business?
Worked for Davis Hat Company, and I don't know, it was not his business. I do not know, Howie, it's okay. Am I ruining this? You can just cut it out. I do not know how he came to work for them. I do know that he did some sales because there is a funny story about all of that. He wouldn't always remember people's names. even though they had been in and bought other hats. And he managed mostly to finesse it by asking people how they spelled their name. But of course, it came down to a Smith or a Jones or something that clearly revealed that he had no idea what their name was.
Were these women's hats, men's hats?
Men's hats, so far as I know.
Okay. Interesting.
Honey,
All right.
oh, happy for goodness sake.
So,
Can we turn that off for just a second?
Yeah. Okay.
Emily, what do you recall about spending holidays and special events with your family?
Well, we always had holidays together, sometimes with extended family. The Seders were usually hosted by my parents at our home, and we had a great group. Adeline and Maury Harrison, and Pauline Kress, and Marvin when he was alive, but I'm not so sure he was with us very long, and the Rabins. And so we had great Passovers. We always went to temple on the high holidays, and the break fasts were usually at home, just the immediate family, although there are larger parts of the family that have the break fast, and occasionally we would join them. My favorite holiday was Passover. We always had wonderful, wonderful Passover seders, and you all probably have a recording, I hope, of Leon Rabin's song, "The Birth of the Jews," that was written to the tune of "The Birth of the Blues." And Leon used to sing "The Birth of the Jews" every Passover. And it was, he and Idell, met each other. They were both theatrical people, and I think they met at the USO or something. And so Leon would really put it on with "The Birth of the Jews." And we all absolutely loved it.
What was the impact of your family on the general community and the Jewish community?
Well, my mother, Shirley, always was out doing something important. She did not work outside the home for money, but she was always doing something outside the home on a volunteer basis. She was involved in something called the Panel of American Women, which was a group of women from different religions and ethnic backgrounds who would go around and talk to organizations about getting along, in essence. My father was I believe, first president of Golden Acres. So his belief in social action and my mother's belief in social action were both very strong and came to me very early. My dad was loved and admired by most of the people he knew well, so much so that when I decided to become a lawyer, I didn't really know that people didn't like lawyers, or many people didn't like lawyers, because everybody loved my dad. Now, it is true that most people love their lawyer, they just don't like lawyers generally. But the irony, being a judge for the last almost 12 years, is that my father's nickname was Judge. And many people, close friends and family, would call him the Judge or Judge. So it was very ingrained in me very early that the community was important, that it was important to give more than you take.
When did you decide to run for judge?
I had been a practicing lawyer for 26 years at the time that I was elected. And I was ready for something new. I had thought about it 4 years before and decided it was not time. As you know, Texas is unusual in that we have partisan judicial election. So in my case, because I did strongly identify with a particular party, I had to wait until I thought there was some chance of there being a victory or two for the party. And as it happened, something I didn't foresee, I think a lot of people did, I did not. That year, which was 2006, the election of 2006, we swept and won every judgeship which was contested. And so it just was a matter of thinking I had the personality for it, the desire for the challenge, but I thought it would be something that would suit me, and I have found it has.
That's wonderful. What do you feel your family's lasting legacy will be?
Oh gosh. I hope that the Tobolowsky name is always associated with doing good things in the community. The last 2 or 3 generations, there are a lot of lawyers, and I think there will be Ira and George's and Myra's children and Donna's children. They're lawyers among all of them. And so I think the connection to the legal community will always be there. But I'm hoping that also the connection to the Jewish community generally, the volunteering, the taking on important issues in the community will always be a legacy of the family.
What have you done in the realm of volunteerism?
Well, I have to say I'm slightly embarrassed that since I have been on the bench, I've cut back a little bit in my Jewish involvement. 8 years ago, I was extremely involved in the American Jewish Committee. I was the president of the Dallas chapter. I've been on the Community Relations Council. I've been an officer of Temple Emmanuel. But all of these things were some little time ago. I just don't find that I have a lot of volunteer time right now. Mm-hmm. But volunteer time is something I hope to return to if and when the time for me to leave this judgeship and go on to something else occurs.
What would you like your personal legacy to be?
A good daughter, a good sister, a good cousin, a good judge, a good friend, a good doggy mom. I just want everyone to know that I really care very deeply for them, and I care about the community, the broader community and the Jewish community. But most important to me at this stage in my life and my mother's life and my father's life before he passed away is that I have been and continue to be a good daughter.
Thank you very much for letting us interview you today. It's been
Well,
a
thank
pleasure.
you. It's been my pleasure. And Howie, apparently, my dog, had a few things he wanted to say, but nobody asked him.
Very good.